This podcast contains graphic descriptions of violence and disturbing content related to real-life events, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Darius.
I'm Margot.
Welcome to Murderology. All right, so today we're diving into Rillington Place.
Oh, okay.
The murders.
Yeah.
This address, it's in London. It became infamous. And honestly, it's a case that I think really shocked the nation.
Yeah.
Still to this day, it raises all these questions about justice and human nature.
Yeah, it's one of those cases that just sticks with you, right? Even after
Right.
all these years, it's had everything, a seemingly normal setting, a botched investigation, and then that wrongful conviction of Timothy Evans. It just all adds up to a story that people can't seem to get enough of.
Right. And it sparked a whole debate about capital punishment, too. A debate that had some really big ripple effects on the legal system in the UK, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, it really forced people to confront some uncomfortable truths about the death penalty and the possibility of executing an innocent person.
Yeah, for sure.
It's heavy stuff.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of material to sift through today. We've got excerpts from this true crime book. It goes really deep into the world of serial killers. And then there's like the Wikipedia entry on John Christie, the guy at the center of it all.
Right.
And a bunch of online articles about the murders, too. Plus, we have this amazing interview with Kate Summerscale. She's a true crime author. She wrote this book that re-examines the whole case from, like, a fresh perspective.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Summerscale's work is fantastic. She's got a real knack for digging into these complex cases.
Totally.
And she's not afraid to, challenge conventional thinking.
Exactly. So I guess our goal for this deep dive is to, really try to untangle what the heck happened at 10 Rillington Place.
Right.
Like, what made John Christie do what he did?
Yeah, what was going on in his head?
Exactly. And then, we got to look at the bigger picture, too, right? Like,
Right.
how this case affected society, the justice system.
Exactly. The ripple effects.
So, okay, let's set the scene, right? It's the 1940s, post-war London. Picture this. 10 Rillington Place.
Okay.
Rundown, 3-story terraced house. Pretty typical of the cramped and often, honestly, kind of crappy housing a lot of Londoners were living in after the war.
Yeah, I can imagine. Not exactly Buckingham Palace.
Not even close. I mean, I've lived in some pretty small shared spaces myself, and I can tell you, things can get tense.
Oh, absolutely. Close quarters, everyone's on edge after the war. It's a recipe for friction.
Totally. And Notting Hill, where Rillington Place was, it was a pretty poor area back then. Lots of families packed into these tiny apartments.
Right. It's easy to see how that kind of environment could lead to, conflict, maybe even violence.
So enter our main players, right? We've got John Christie and his wife, Ethel. They lived on the ground floor. Upstairs, we have Timothy Evans and his pregnant wife, Beryl. To make things even more complicated, both of the Christies apparently weren't too fond of the influx of migrant families from the West Indies who were also living in the building.
Huh. That's interesting. It kind of gives you a glimpse into John Christie's personality, This need for control, a sense of superiority.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Something we'll definitely see more of as we dig deeper.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's this seemingly small detail that ends up being super important later on. Christie had, exclusive use of the back garden, this tiny little patch of land.
Right.
It seems insignificant at first, right?
Yeah, but you start to connect it to everything else, and it kind of highlights Christie's need for, for control.
Yeah, and maybe a desire for isolation, too.
Absolutely. That garden, it becomes, it's not just a garden in this story, that's for sure.
Okay, so let's talk about John Christie himself. What kind of man could commit the atrocities that happened at Rillington Place?
Right. That's the question, isn't it?
It's a tough one.
I mean, to understand someone like that, you have to kind of go back to the beginning, their childhood.
Okay, so what do we know about Christie's childhood?
Well, the true crime book paints a pretty disturbing picture. He had this really strict upbringing. His dad was incredibly harsh, and he was bullied by his sisters, really badly bullied.
Wow. That's rough. The book also kind of hints at some maybe sexual inhibitions he had, possibly stemming from those childhood experiences. It's like, you wonder how those early traumas might have shaped him later on.
Yeah, it's impossible to say for sure, but it's definitely something to think about. I mean, there are all these psychological theories about how childhood trauma can impact adult behavior, especially when it comes to violence against women.
Right.
It's complicated.
And then if you look at his early criminal activity, it's not exactly a pretty picture either.
No, not at all.
theft, assault. He even committed this, like, brutal attack on a woman with a cricket bat.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't a guy who shied away from violence.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's interesting, though, right? Because he was also able to present this facade of respectability. He had jobs, even served as a war reserve constable, all while having this troubled marriage to Ethel and, constantly visiting prostitutes on the side.
Yeah, that's what makes it so creepy, right? The contrast between his outward appearance
Yeah.
and what was going on beneath the surface.
Totally. It's like this Jekyll and Hyde thing.
And then there's that whole period during the war when he claimed he'd gone blind and mute after a gas attack.
Right, right. Was that even real? Or was it some kind of psychological breakdown?
I know. It's hard to say. Summerscale, in her interview, she actually suggests he might have been faking it.
Really?
She pointed out that Christie was known to be a pretty manipulative guy. He bragged about fooling doctors in the past.
So he could have been playing the victim, trying to get sympathy.
Exactly.
Wow. That's chilling.
Yeah. But either way, that wartime experience seems to have been a turning point for him. When he came back to civilian life, he had this air of respectability, like a reformed character. But underneath it all, something much darker was brewing.
Yeah, it's like the war kind of broke something in him, unleashed something he couldn't control.
Totally. And those secrets he was hiding, well, they were about to spill out in the most horrific way imaginable. His first confirmed victim was this young Austrian woman, Ruth Forst. 1943, he strangles her impulsively, and remember that garden we talked about?
Yeah, the one he had all to himself.
That's where he buries her, in this little private domain.
Oh, it's awful.
And it gets worse, too.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. In 1944, he murders Muriel Eady. He uses this concoction he made to try and mask the smell of gas. He rapes and strangles her, and then guess what? He buries her next to First in the garden.
Oh, God. It's like he created his own little graveyard.
And here's where the police really screw things up, right? They actually searched the house during the Evans case, which we'll get to in a minute, but somehow they completely missed the remains in the garden.
You're kidding, right? Like, how do you miss that?
I know. It's mind-boggling. I mean, forensics back then weren't as advanced as they are now, but still, it's a huge oversight.
Yeah.
And because they messed up, Christie was able to keep killing for years.
Years? Oh, my God. That's terrifying.
It is. And so into this already messed up situation come Timothy Evans and his wife, Beryl. They move into the top-floor apartment. Beryl's pregnant when they arrive at 10 Rillington Place.
Okay.
And they soon have a little girl, Geraldine. They had no idea they were walking into a nightmare.
Yeah, they were just looking for a place to live, to start a family.
I know. It's heartbreaking. And this is where things get really complicated. Beryl finds out she's pregnant again, and they can't afford another child.
Right.
Abortion's illegal at the time.
Oh, so they're trapped.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So she turns to Christie for help. He's supposed to have some medical knowledge,
Yeah, right.
and he promises to help her out.
Right.
But of course, his real motives are way darker.
Oh, no.
It's a truly tragic story. What happens next is just, it's one of the most shocking miscarriages of justice you'll ever hear about. It's like you can just feel the tension building, right?
Yeah, it's palpable.
This young couple, they're facing an unwanted pregnancy. They're living in this rundown building. And downstairs, there's this manipulative, dangerous guy just waiting,
It's a recipe for disaster.
And, well, that's exactly what happens. Beryl and little Geraldine, they're found dead in the wash house.
Oh, no.
Both strangled.
God.
The police are called in, and right away they suspect Timothy Evans.
It seems pretty straightforward, right?
You'd think so.
Mm.
But then Summerscale's interview, she kind of throws a wrench in things.
Oh, how so?
She mentions this piece of evidence. It's a conversation between Christie and a prison guard.
Okay.
Christie actually claims that Evans asked him to kill Beryl.
Whoa, hold on. So you're saying Evans might have been more involved than we originally thought?
It's possible. It definitely makes things a lot more complicated. I mean, we may never know exactly what happened between Evans and Christie or how Beryl died.
Yeah, some secrets just stay buried.
But one thing's for sure, the police, they really botched the investigation.
Oh, yeah. In what way?
They missed key evidence, their interrogation tactics were questionable at best, and they relied way too much on John Christie's testimony.
But Christie's the killer.
Exactly. They're taking the word of a manipulative, cold-blooded murderer.
That's insane.
I know, right? And it leads to one of the most shocking miscarriages of justice, I think, in British history.
It's hard to believe something like that could even happen.
So Timothy Evans, this young father, he's facing a desperate situation. He gets convicted, and he's executed for a crime he probably didn't even commit.
Jeez.
And all the while, the real monster, John Christie, he's walking free.
It's so wrong.
I know. But it gets worse. Even after Evans is executed, Christie keeps on killing.
Wait, so it's like once Evans was out of the picture, Christie just, I don't know, went on a rampage.
It's almost like that, yeah. Like he'd gotten away with it once, and now there was nothing stopping him.
It's terrifying.
So by 1952, he'd murdered his own wife, Ethel.
What? His own wife?
Yeah, and then he comes up with this whole web of lies to cover it up. He tells people she's gone to visit relatives, that kind of thing.
Wow. He's really good at this whole deception thing.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, he's drowning in debt. He's desperate to keep up appearances, to maintain this facade of normalcy.
I guess keeping up that facade takes a lot of work, huh?
It does. And it seems like all that pressure, the money problems, the fear of getting caught, maybe it all just kind of pushed him over the edge.
He just snaps.
Pretty much. And his next victims, well, there are 3 of them, Kathleen Maloney, Rita Nelson, she was pregnant, by the way, and Hectorina McLennan.
Jesus.
Each murder is more horrific than the last. It's like he's perfecting his methods, becoming more and more depraved.
God, I can't even imagine what those poor women went through.
And what's really disturbing is that he continued to, engage in necrophilia with these later victims.
Oh, God, that's beyond sick.
It really is. And the fact that he was able to pull all this off right under everyone's noses, it's just mind-boggling.
Wait.
He hid the bodies for so long, even with other people living in the same house.
How? How did he do that?
You remember that hidden alcove in his kitchen we talked about?
Yeah.
He stashed the bodies in there, just hid them behind some wallpaper.
Oh, my God. It's like something out of a horror movie.
It really is. I mean, it's a testament to how cunning and cold-blooded he was. He could be having tea with a neighbor one minute and then hiding a body the next.
It's chilling.
So once the bodies are discovered, it's chaos. There's a citywide manhunt. Christie's picture is everywhere. People are terrified.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
But eventually, they catch him. And guess what they find on him?
What?
That newspaper clipping about Evans' execution.
Whoa. That's like something out of a crime novel.
Talk about poetic justice, right?
It's almost too perfect.
So they put him on trial. He tries to plead insanity, says he doesn't remember anything.
Oh, come on. He's trying to play the victim again.
But the jury wasn't buying it.
Good. They saw through his act.
Yeah. He was sentenced to death, executed in 1953. Finally, his reign of terror was over.
It's almost a relief to hear that.
But even though Christie's dead, the damage is done. The Evans case, that wrongful conviction, it had huge consequences.
Yeah, it's not something you just forget about.
It started this national debate about capital punishment, about how flawed the justice system could be.
It makes you wonder how many other innocent people were, wrongly convicted back then.
Exactly. And it wasn't just talk either. This case actually played a role in the abolition of the death penalty in the UK in 1965.
Wow. That's incredible. Like, this horrific case actually led to positive change.
It's a powerful legacy for sure.
It shows that even in the darkest of times, there can be a glimmer of hope.
So we've gone through the timeline of the murders, the police mistakes, the tragic end of Timothy Evans. But there's still one big question we haven't really answered.
What's that?
What made John Christie do it? Why did he become a monster?
Yeah.
It's like the big mystery, right?
Right, the big question.
What turns a seemingly ordinary guy into a serial killer?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? There's no easy answer. Human behavior, it's complicated.
Especially when you're talking about something as extreme as this.
Exactly. There's rarely just one thing that can explain why someone does something like this, becomes a serial killer.
It's like we have all these pieces of the puzzle, but some are missing, and the ones we do have, they don't quite fit, do they?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But, I mean, we can still try to figure out what we can, right? We
Yeah.
have to look at his childhood, those possible, sexual issues that came up, the anger he had toward women. Those are all pieces of the puzzle.
And then there's that creepy detail, right? The collection of pubic hair they found.
Oh, yeah. That's strange.
And they couldn't even identify all of it. It makes you wonder if there were more victims out there, victims we'll never know about.
Oh, God. It's a chilling thought, isn't it? Like, how many other secrets are buried with him?
Summerscale, in her interview, she talked about Christie being like a reflection of post-war Britain and all its anxieties. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting take. I mean, think about it. Post-war Britain, it was a crazy time, right? The economy was a mess, social norms were changing. There was just this feeling of, uncertainty in the air.
Yeah, like everyone was trying to figure out what the new world was going to look like.
Exactly. And maybe in that kind of environment, someone like Christie, with all his, his darkness and his rage, maybe it just boiled over.
So he was a product of his time. Like his crimes were almost inevitable given the circumstances.
It's possible, yeah. But it doesn't excuse what he did, obviously. But it helps to, understand the context a bit more. And it makes you think, right, about how society can create these conditions where someone like that can thrive.
Okay, and what about Timothy Evans? We keep coming back to him, I think for good reason. Do you think he was totally innocent? Or did he play some role in what happened to Beryl? God, that's a tough one. I mean, we talked about that evidence from Christie's prison conversation, right? The one where he claims Evans asked him to do it.
Right. It makes you wonder, what was going through Evans's head? Was he desperate? Did Christie manipulate him?
I mean, they were both in a tough spot. Desperate people do desperate things, right?
I guess so.
But even if Evans did ask Christie to do it, the police still messed up big time.
Oh, absolutely. Their investigation was a joke. They were so quick to believe Christie, and because of that, they sent an innocent man to the gallows. It's infuriating.
The whole thing's a tragedy. No matter how you look at it, there's just a mountain of injustice that hangs over this whole case.
Yeah. And it makes you realize how fragile justice really is. One wrong move, one bad decision, and an innocent person can pay the ultimate price.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. It's a lot to process, right? This whole Rillington Place thing.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff. It makes you realize how much darkness there is in the world, how easily it can hide in plain sight.
I mean, Christie was just like this ordinary guy. No one suspected a thing.
Until it was too late.
And that's what's so scary, right? It could be anyone, your neighbor, the guy at the grocery store. Anyone could be hiding these horrific secrets.
Exactly. It makes you think twice about, the people you interact with every day. But I think it's important to remember, too, that cases like this are rare.
Right. We don't want to scare everyone into thinking there's a Christie lurking around every corner.
Exactly. But I do think this case teaches us some important lessons, about the importance of critical thinking, of questioning authority, of never taking justice for granted.
Totally. And like you always say, the search for truth is a never-ending journey. We have to keep asking questions, keep digging, keep trying to understand the complexities of human behavior.
Absolutely. Because if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it, right?
Right.
Well said. And that's a wrap for today, folks. Remember, fellow deep divers, keep those critical thinking skills sharp and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions. Until next time, stay curious and stay vigilant.